This is the worst news for California that I have heard ever, so to speak. So what am I talking about? California has heard about the big one for decades, but guys, this study is absolutely different. I'll tell you the name of the study and then I'll explain what that is. So the study is Cajon Pass and the Southern San Andreas Fault System, earthquake cycle, stress accumulation, and present day loading. And I have read the study and I have to tell you guys, Shizzy could hit the fizzy very soon. The headlines that we're hearing from newspaper articles that report about this study: highest stress in 1,000 years, big one, fears grow, California fault system critically loaded, Cajon Pass may decide how big the next quake becomes, earthquake gate near Los Angeles, and two major faults could rupture together. And they don't mean the San Andreas fault and the Cascadia fault. I have reported about this. This is basically the epitome of shizzy that would hit the fizzy if those two ruptured together. No, they're talking about something else. So what is this? Scientists just modeled 1,000 years of earthquake history along the San Andreas and San Jacinto faults. And the result is now showing up in these headlines everywhere. Highest stress in 1,000 years, and earthquake gate near Los Angeles describe it best. But the most dangerous part is not just that one fault is stressed. Is it that it's two major fault systems may now be stressed at the same time in the wrong place? That doesn't sound good. And this is the location near Cajon Pass. And according to the model of that new study, that pass could actually decide whether the next major earthquake stops on one fault or jumps across both. So this study is not an earthquake prediction. No scientist can tell you the day, the month, or the year when it happens. But what they're saying is serious enough. The Southern San Andreas fault system is now in a critically loaded state, and the stress levels in some sections are higher than anything seen in their 1,000-year simulation. So the study focuses on the Cajon Pass that is northeast of Los Angeles. So this is where the San Andreas fault and the San Jacinto fault come close together. We only hear about the San Andreas fault, right? But there's this other fault, San Jacinto fault. So that matters because this is not just a line on the map. This is a junction, a switch point, a gate. So if a rupture reaches this area, Cajon Pass can either stop it or allow it to keep going into the other fault system, which would be the big shizzy system. So this is why scientists are actually really calling it an earthquake gate. And here's why that word matters. Let's go back to 1857. The Fort Tejon earthquake ripped also along the San Andreas fault with an estimated magnitude of 7.9. And guys, that is massive. If you want to know what a 7.8 looks like, you have to watch my video that I put in the end screen that just happened in the Philippines, and it blows your mind. The first time you see something like that on camera, watch it, because 7.9, if people say, oh, that's not an 8, that's not a 9, that's not a mega thrust, well, believe me when I say this is bad. Bad, bad, bad. And that rupture has reached the Cajon Pass area and stopped. It stopped. So it did not this time continue into the San Jacinto fault. But in 1812, the Wrightwood earthquake behaved differently. And it's important that we understand the past so that we understand what the scientists are actually warning us about. So 1812, that rupture appears to have crossed through the junction and has involved both fault systems. So the danger is not just, oh, will the San Andreas Fault move? No, the real question is if it moves, and it will, we all know that. Does it stay in its lane or does it connect with the San Jacinto Fault and create a much larger rupture path? And if we go further, oh yeah, if that shizzy's already hitting the fizzy, can the San Andreas Fault then rupture the Cascadia Fault that goes from Northern California into British Columbia, Canada? The big one, the mega thrust earthquake that will destroy the Pacific Northwest, an estimated magnitude 9+ earthquake with a tsunami wave up to 100 feet or even higher. So imagine this is doomsday for the whole West Coast, Canada, and the US. So actually, I think the risk is threefold if we go according to new research. But let's focus on that gate here. Even if we only talk about the two, that is the difference between a major earthquake at the San Andreas Fault and a much, much wider regional disaster. So the new model has looked at earthquake history going back about 1,000 years. Researchers used geological evidence that's already there, radiocarbon dating, tree ring clues, and records of past ground ruptures that are still visible. Then they built a physics-based model showing how stress built up, how previous earthquakes shifted that stress, and how the deeper crust slowly relaxed after the big ruptures. So this was not just a simple map saying the fault is overdue. They have actually really reconstructed the stress history of that whole system. And what came out is the part that definitely has to get our attention. So the San Jacinto-Bernardino section is now modeled at 3.6 megapascals of stress. The Mojave South section of the San Andreas Fault is at 2.8 megapascals. And those numbers, I'll explain it. They really matter because both sections are right now high at the same time. So not one fault stressed while the other is quiet. Both are loaded in a similar way. And the Cascadia Fault is kind of overdue as well. Just want to mention that, right? It's no big deal. But another part, right? We have to say, historically, that time of alignment is what has been associated with ruptures crossing through the gate. And that is the major part that many people do not realize and totally miss when they report about this. So the danger is not just the pressure number that we have for both faults. It's where that stress is sitting. The San Andreas Fault is long, right? It's spread across a huge locked fault surface, locked and loaded, extending for miles along the fault and deep into the crust. A locked fault does not slide smoothly every day. It stores stress and strain because it's not moving, it's locked. The plates keep moving, that's the problem, but the fault is stuck, so the pressure builds up. And that energy has to go somewhere eventually. And when a large enough section finally breaks, the shaking is not local. It's just not, right? It can run along the whole fault, damage cities even far from the epicenter, and cut across systems the systems people depend on after a disaster, destroy critical infrastructure. And Cajon Pass, unfortunately, is not an empty desert location. It's one of the most important corridors in Southern California. We have highways, we have rail lines, power, energy, infrastructure are passing through this region. I'm just saying, let's say all three faults rupture. Who's going to come to help? Let that sink in. That's why I'm pausing. Where is help coming from? It's going to take very, very long. So a major rupture crossing these two fault systems could threaten the greater Los Angeles area, San Bernardino, Riverside, and the Coachella Valley. So that means the issue is not only buildings shaking, it's roads, bridges, fuel supply, power supply, water supply, emergency access, supply lines, and, as I said, the ability to move help into damaged areas. So this is why a joint rupture matters so much more than a quake that is limited to just one fault. I mean, just one fault, the San Andreas fault, just one fault, right? Let's not minimize that. A single fault rupture would already be bad enough, dangerous enough, right? But a rupture crossing both systems could spread the impact across a much larger and more connected region. And again, 3, I don't even want to think about this, right? So let's talk about what the scientists are not saying, actually. They're not saying that earthquake will hit tomorrow. They say it's not guaranteed, right? They do not say everyone should panic right now. But here's what they are saying. They are saying the fault system is sitting in a stress condition that has not appeared like that in the last 1,000 years of their model. And the key junction near Cajon Pass is now one of the most important pieces of the puzzle. So be aware, be on alert, be prepared. I would always, in an earthquake-prone region, have water for weeks. And don't rely on a well if you don't have a well pump that works, right? Nothing manual or something like that. So food for your animals, your critical medication, because if the big shit, shizzy, hits the fizzy, we want to say, be prepared, because it can take quite a long time. We're not talking about hours until help arrives, probably not days if it's really big. So let that sink in and check out how that earthquake actually looks. What happens if the ground starts shaking? And here in the Philippines, I don't even want to say more. You have to watch that. I see you there in a second. Bye-bye.